I have no problem telling you that I tell our team a lot to look at what the UFC does. I mean, I'm very envious because of the way that they can match their fighters contractually with almost without any arguments. I'd love to be able to do that in boxing, but just the way they run their business, you know, the way they operate, the brand that they've grown globally, it's a shining example to us as a business. We want to follow suit. And, you know, I'm close to Dana White, but we talk a lot. I have a huge amount of respect for him. And, you know, he helped really in the role of Abu Dhabi in this deal, because, you know, I met some of the influential people at the UFC London. We were already in conversations. You know, I bounced Abu Dhabi off Dana a couple of times, and he couldn't speak highly enough of the partnership he's built there with the DCT. And we feel the same about boxing. We're in a very lucky position to be working with these people. We're in a very lucky position to promote the sport globally. And this is a really major week and night for us as a business, because no one's doing what we're doing globally. You know, no one's promoting the sport of boxing in the territories that we're promoting. And this is a massive moment for us as a business. And we really want to make sure that November 5th is a special night for Abu Dhabi and a special night for boxing.
Yeah, we touched on this a few weeks back, Eddie, when you joined us on the show. You know, you didn't hide from the fact that, hey, listen, if this goes well, your AJs, your Canelos, your Katie Taylors, we're talking of those guys and gals. If this goes well, Abu Dhabi could be a real hub, a home away from home for Matchroom.
Yeah, and I love the way they're doing it as well. You know, they could have come in with a Joshua against Usyk, or, you know, but they come in with a really epic world championship card at the right level, you know, to showcase the best boxing from worldwide in Abu Dhabi. This venture with the DCT is not just about bringing a couple of big fights to the region. It's about building the sport with a long-term plan. And that's from the grassroots level, you know, participation in amateur boxing clubs, to trying to build some great amateurs to go to the Olympics and so forth, to expanding it to growing boxing in a professional area within the region, and of course showcasing the region and the country, and they've done that so well. I mean, you have only got to look at the last couple of weeks, you know, with the NBA, with the UFC, you know, Formula One coming up. The schedule in Abu Dhabi is incredible, and, you know, I mean it when I say we're very lucky to have created this partnership, and it's very important to us as a business, a long-term partnership. When we sat down, we're not interested in just popping over and doing the odd event. We actually want to build something sustainable for the sport in Abu Dhabi and in the region. And I feel like this is the start of that next week.
Well, the figurehead for the first one is Dmitry Bivol, Eddie. I did spend a bit of time with him earlier this week. Lovely fella, I've got to say that.
Yeah.
Had time for everyone, incredibly humble, no whinging, no moaning. He never turned to his manager once to say, hey, listen, this is getting on. How do you build him out, Eddie? Because he said so himself to me, in actual fact. He said, listen, I know the pressure's on now. A lot of people recognise me after what I did against Canelo, Alvarez. He says, I don't feel the pressure. I've just got to do my job in the ring. But as you building I don't want to call him a commodity, but as you building out the personality of Dmitry Bivol to sell more fights in the future, what do you need to do?
I always like to keep it real, you know. I like to expose people's true personality. You're never going to get Dmitry Bivol going out to a nightclub and, you know, partying with 12 bottles of champagne and, you know, like going up to a fighter and headbutting them on the street and causing controversy. You sell Dmitry Bivol for what he is. He's an ice cold machine. Right? When he boxed Canelo Alvarez, I don't think this guy's pulse pre-fight went up to past 50. You know, you would have seen how chilled he is. But for a long time, people have been talking about Dmitry Bivol as a guy who's got a potential to be an all-time great. But he never had the opportunity to prove it. You know, on Cinco de Mayo, he did. And he defeated the pound-for-pound number one. But now he's got a target on his back. You know, he's always been the hunter. Now he's the hunted. And this fight with Zurdo Ramirez was always looked at as a 50-50 fight in the division. But through the Canelo Alvarez victory, all of a sudden, Bivol becomes a favourite for this fight. But the pressure is on, you know, because coming off that defeat, people want to see. More people are saying, well, I know Dmitry Bivol is. You know, millions of people watch that fight worldwide. So he's a great ambassador for the sport. You know, he's carved out of stone. He's a fighting machine. You know, and I think that's the way that you have to expose him to the public. He's just that. He's a tremendous fighter.
My co-host Robbie and I had a good conversation about this fight yesterday, and it wasn't lost on me that he's stepping up. Listen, Canelo is an absolute superstar, a monster inside the ring. He's very different to what Zurdo Ramirez is. He's going to change. Ramirez is taller, he's got a heck of a body shot. I appreciate Canelo has that as well. But how do you think Dmitry is going to deal with the just changing styles? You know, styles make fights, as they say.
I mean, also Ramirez is huge. You know, Canelo is much shorter. You saw Ramirez. I mean, Ramirez now has the full six-pack in, but when he came over for the press tour, he looked like heavyweight. You know, he's a really big guy, and he'll be massive on the night. He's very good. I mean, great body puncher, but just a great technician. Very tough, punches hard. And, you know, this is a really big fight for boxing because you've got Oscar De La Hoya, you know, you've got Golden Boy coming over. They've got, obviously, Team Ramirez. They're desperate to win. We're desperate for Bivol to win. He's desperate to win. Could be a rematch with Canelo Alvarez. Could be the undisputed fight against Beterbiev. So there's a lot on the line in this fight, not just for both guys, but their camps, their teams, the boxing business, the boxing world. It's a very, very important fight for the sport.
Just talk to me on that. And I know you don't like to get too carried away. Of course you don't. You're in the business of keeping it real and making sure you take care of business on the night. But Canelo Alvarez, Eddie, is he in your ear? Does he want that rematch with Bivol sooner rather than later?
Yeah, he's a massive competitor. So, you know, any time he gets defeated, and it's only happened twice in his career, once to Floyd Mayweather and once to Dmitry Bivol. So he's desperate to try and avenge that loss. He also wants Zurdo to win because obviously he's a fellow Mexican, but you know, he's not really interested in moving up to light heavyweight. He just wants to avenge the defeat to Dmitry Bivol. And I guess he'll be pleased if Zurdo wins, but if Dmitry Bivol does win, I think Canelo Alvarez will be targeting that rematch in May.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Quick word on a couple of your other charges. Katie Taylor, of course, takes top billing this weekend. What she has done for the women's fight game, remarkable, Eddie. You don't need me to tell you that. Croke Park in the future. I hear she's coming out again saying that's the dream. Does that give you sleepless nights? Is that the dream for you too?
Yeah, you know, I mean, look, Katie Taylor is a legend. She's an icon. All those words that we probably use too much in boxing and in sport really couldn't sit better with Katie Taylor. I mean, Madison Square Garden last time out against Serrano was one of the greatest sporting memories I think we've ever had. And she deserves that homecoming. You know, she's never boxed in Ireland for various different reasons, but now really the path is clear to do that. And it must happen. You know, she's got a tough fight on Saturday night against Cara Howell, who's 19-0 mandatory challenger. But if she comes through that, and we expect her to, Croke Park's calling, you know, Amanda Serrano, 80,000 people. What a spectacle, and just what she deserves as well, in all honesty. And, you know, women's boxing's on fire at the moment. You've got Clarissa Shields just had a great fight with Savannah Marshall. I've got to tell you, next Saturday at our show in Abu Dhabi, Chantel Cameron against Jessica McCaskill could be the best of all of the women's fights we've seen. It's the undisputed 140-pound world championship. There's loads of beef between the teams as well, which we're going to see come out during fight week as well. Honestly, it's a brilliant fight and just one of 3 world championship fights in Abu Dhabi next week. But yeah, Katie Taylor sits at the top of the tree, absolute legend, and looking forward to seeing her fight this Saturday in London.
Absolutely, you'll be ringside for that as well. What about, and you'll always get questions on this, I saw your comments this week, it's looking early 2023 for AJ, Dillian Whyte. Where are we with that?
Yeah, I mean, AJ sort of said to me, like, I don't really want an easy fight to come back to. I was like, mate, you deserve one. You just boxed Usyk twice back to back. And before that, you know, it was Pulev, Ruiz, Parker, Klitschko, you know, all these guys, Povetkin. And he talked to me about Dillian Whyte. I mean, Dillian Whyte had his own tough fight on November 26th against Jermaine Franklin, undefeated American. But AJ, Dillian Whyte is a massive fight. You know, the first one was epic. It's 2 Londoners who really would have to win to keep their world championship shots alive. So I think if Dillian Whyte gets through Jermaine Franklin in November, there is a big chance that it could be AJ against Dillian Whyte early next year.
Oh, watch the space on that. Last couple from me. I know you've spoken infinitum about Conor Benn. I'm not going to go there. What I do want to get your thoughts on, though, Eddie, is a man who is at the cold face, if you will, of boxing. What do you make of this standoff with the sport of boxing and the IOC from an Olympic standpoint? It looks as if it's going to be in 2024. LA are saying in 2028, we're not sure. Is that a concern for you, Eddie? Boxing in the Olympics, does that help or hinder you?
I mean, in terms of my business, it doesn't really affect us too much, although it would affect, in my opinion, the profile of the sport globally. I just feel like boxing has been such an integral part of Olympic history. When you look at the years gone by, some of the names that have come through this, Muhammad Ali, Roy Jones Jr., Floyd Mayweather, Anthony Joshua, Lennox Lewis, so many great fighters have emerged through the Olympic system and cycle. And I think it would be a big blow for the sport, really, as a fan rather than a businessman, to see it slip out. I don't see why it should. What's going to take it out of the Olympics is politics, between the amateur code and, AIBA and the IOC. And I don't actually know too much about it, really. I just hope everybody gets their act together and understands that they can all work in tandem and we can create something really positive for amateur boxing, because I think the development from the kid that walks into the gym to the undisputed world champion should always have an Olympic cycle in the middle of it, and hopefully they can sort it all out.
That's for the future. The immediate future is November 5th over here in the United Arab Emirates. It is Bivol against Ramirez. That is the headline act. As you've already stated, Eddie, it is a stacked undercard. You've become known as a bit of a Nostradamus. So what are we expecting? November 5th, etihadarena.ae, incidentally, if you want your tickets. Fantastic prices. It's accessible to all. What are we expecting come November 5th, Eddie?
You're expecting a great night of World Championship boxing, from top to bottom. We've got Olympic gold medalist Galal Yafai, we've got his brother Cal Yafai, we've got Campbell Hatton, we've got Akib Fiaz. We've also got local fighters as well, but we've got 3 fantastic World Championship fights. Zelfa Barrett from Manchester taking on Russia's Rakhimov for the IBF Super Featherweight World title. Complete 50-50 fight. One of the women's fights of the year, the undisputed fight between Chantel Cameron and Jessica McCaskill. And one of the best fights in boxing, in Bivol against Ramirez. Like, when you're talking about entertainment, when you're talking about being introduced to the sport, when you're talking about boxing lovers, this is a must-see event. Great value for money across the board. We're going to create a special fight week in Abu Dhabi next week. Of course, get yourself to the Etihad on November 5th, but enjoy all the activities of a really big moment for the sport. Not just in Abu Dhabi, but globally. This is the start of something very special in the region, and we look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Yeah, I noticed today as well, you're going to be in conversation with the masses. You're down at Phileas Fogg, Wednesday, 2nd of November, for a bit of a Q&A. Punters need to turn out for that one as well. You'll be out.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of fun. Ask me what you want. You can give me a grilling. Have a good night out, talk boxing, and I really can't wait to get there next week. As I said, special moment for me and us as a business, and we're going to give you a tremendous event on November 5th.
No doubt about it. Eddie Hearn, always a pleasure, never a chore, my friend. Safe journey over to this part of the world, and we'll see you next week ahead of November 5th, Bivol versus Ramirez.
Cheers, Chris. See you next week.
Dubai Eye 103.8.
Join the conversation.